The United States boasts a political landscape dominated by two major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans. Like twin titans locked in an eternal struggle, these parties have shaped the nation's history, values, and future. From the earliest days of the Republic, political factions emerged, each vying for influence and power. The Democrats trace their roots back to the Democratic Republican Party of Thomas Jefferson, advocating for states' rights and a limited federal government. The Republicans arose in the mid-19th century as a direct response to the divisive issue of slavery, championing abolition and a strong national government. These two parties, with their distinct ideologies and approaches to governance, have become deeply ingrained in the fabric of American society. Their rivalry has fueled countless debates, shaped landmark legislation, and determined the course of the nation.
The seeds of the Democratic Party were sown in the fertile ground of the American Revolution. As the newly formed nation grappled with its identity and destiny, Thomas Jefferson emerged as a leading voice for individual liberty and limited government. Jefferson's followers coalesced into the Democratic-Republican Party, advocating for states' rights, agrarian values, and a strict interpretation of the Constitution. They opposed the Federalist Party, led by Alexander Hamilton, which favored a strong central government and a more commercially driven economy. The Democratic Republicans triumphed in the election of 1800, marking the first peaceful transfer of power between opposing political parties in American history. Under Jefferson's leadership, the Democratic Republicans sought to dismantle Federalist policies, reduce the size and scope of the federal government, and promote westward expansion. Their legacy would continue to shape the Democratic Party's core principles for generations to come. By the mid-19th century, the issue of slavery had ignited a firestorm of controversy across the United States. The existing two-party system, consisting of the Whig Party and the Democratic Party, proved incapable of containing the growing sectional tensions. Out of this crucible of conflict emerged the Republican Party, a coalition of anti-slavery activists, former Whigs, and disgruntled Democrats. United by their opposition to the expansion of slavery into new territories, they advocated for its abolition and a strong national government to enforce this goal. The Republican Party's first major victory came in 1860 with the election of Abraham Lincoln as president. Lincoln's victory, a direct challenge to the South's reliance on enslaved labor, triggered the secession of 11 Southern states and the outbreak of the Civil War. Section 5. Reconstruction and the Gilded Age, Political Shifts and Party Machines. The aftermath of the Civil War ushered in a period of profound transformation known as Reconstruction. The Republican Party, now firmly in control of the federal government, sought to rebuild the South and integrate formerly enslaved people into American society. Reconstruction witnessed the passage of the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments to the Constitution, abolishing slavery, guaranteeing equal protection under the law, and granting voting rights to African American men. The Gilded Age, a period of rapid industrialization, economic growth, and widespread corruption, saw the rise of powerful political machines. These machines, often controlled by the Democratic Party in urban areas, provided social services and patronage jobs to immigrants in exchange for their votes. The Republican Party found its base of support among industrialists, bankers, and a growing middle class, favoring policies that promoted economic growth. Section 6. The Progressive Era, Reforms and Realignments. The turn of the 20th century witnessed a wave of social and political reforms known as the Progressive Era. Progressives, drawn from both parties, sought to address the ills of industrialization, urbanization, and political corruption. The Republican Party, under the leadership of Theodore Roosevelt, embraced some progressive ideals, enacting antitrust legislation, regulating food and drug safety, and conserving natural resources. Roosevelt's split from the Republican Party in 1912 weakened the party and paved the way for the election of Democrat Woodrow Wilson. Wilson's presidency marked a turning point for the Democratic Party as it began to embrace a more active role for government in addressing social and economic problems. Section 7. The New Deal and the Rise of the Welfare State. The Great Depression, a devastating economic downturn that began in 1929, tested the very foundations of American capitalism and governance. The Republican Party, long associated with laissez-faire economics, struggled to provide effective solutions to the crisis. The election of Franklin Delano Roosevelt in 1932 ushered in a new era in American politics. Roosevelt's New Deal programs aimed to provide relief, recovery, and reform to a nation reeling from economic despair. The New Deal fundamentally reshaped the role of government in American life, establishing a social safety net through programs such as Social Security, unemployment insurance, and welfare. The New Deal era marked a significant realignment in American politics, as African Americans, labor unions, and urban voters shifted their allegiance to the Democratic Party. Section 8. The Civil Rights Movement and the Southern Strategy. The post-World War II era witnessed the rise of the Civil Rights Movement, a powerful struggle for racial equality and justice. The Democratic Party, with its base in the North and its commitment to civil rights, found itself increasingly divided on this issue. Southern Democrats, many of whom still held segregationist views, resisted efforts to dismantle Jim Crow laws and ensure equal rights for African Americans. The passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 further exacerbated these divisions. The Republican Party, sensing an opportunity to exploit these divisions, adopted a Southern strategy, appealing to white Southern voters who felt alienated by the Democratic Party's embrace of civil rights. This strategy, combined with growing anxieties over social change and urban unrest, helped to shift the political landscape in the South towards the Republican Party.
Section 9. The Modern Political Landscape, Polarization and Partisanship. The latter half of the 20th century and the early 21st century have witnessed a marked increase in political polarization and partisanship in the United States. The two major parties, the Democrats and the Republicans, have become more ideologically distinct, with less overlap in their policy positions and worldviews. The rise of cable news, talk radio, and social media has contributed to the creation of echo chambers, where individuals are primarily exposed to information that confirms their existing beliefs. This has made it more difficult for people with differing viewpoints to find common ground and engage in constructive dialogue. Political polarization has also manifested in increasingly bitter partisan battles over issues such as healthcare, immigration, gun control, and climate change. Section 10. Understanding the electoral process, from primaries to the presidency. The United States employs a complex electoral process to choose its leaders, a system designed to balance the principles of popular sovereignty with the interests of individual states. The journey from aspiring candidate to elected official is a long and arduous one, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. The first hurdle for aspiring presidential candidates is securing their party's nomination. This involves competing in a series of state-by-state primary elections and caucuses, where voters cast their ballots for their preferred candidate. The candidate who amasses a majority of delegates pledged to them at their party's national convention becomes the party's nominee. Once the two major parties have chosen their nominees, the general election campaign begins in earnest. Candidates crisscross the country, delivering speeches, participating in debates, and vying for the support of voters. The general election is held on the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November. The outcome of the presidential election is determined not by the popular vote, but by the Electoral College. Each state is assigned a certain number of electors based on its representation in Congress.
Section 11. The importance of civic engagement in a democracy. The United States prides itself on being a beacon of democracy, a nation where the people hold the power to shape their own destiny. However, this power is not a given. It must be exercised and safeguarded by an informed and engaged citizenry. Civic engagement takes many forms, from voting in elections to volunteering in one's community to advocating for policies one believes in. It is through active participation in the political process that individuals can make their voices heard and contribute to the betterment of their society. Understanding the political system, the history of the two major parties, and the electoral process is crucial for informed civic engagement. By embracing their civic duty, Americans can ensure that their government remains accountable to the people it serves, and that the principles of liberty, equality, and justice continue to thrive.